STEM students. Welcome to second semester, fourth quarter. Happy learning, everyone. Before we continue our video lesson, don't forget to like, share, and comment in this video, and don't forget to click the subscribe button and the notification bell for more video from your teacher, Miss Jenaline P. Besa. For our topic, we will have weathering and Earth's heat for subject of Earth Science by your teacher, Miss Jenaline P. Besa. For our learning objectives, first we have describe how rocks undergo weathering, explain why Earth's interior is hot. So this objective, ito po yung ating focus for our lesson. Table of contents. First, we will talk about the weathering. Second, two processes of weathering. Third, why is the Earth's interior hot? Fourth, the three main sources of heat inside the Earth. So first, let's have the weathering. Simple as that. Do you have any idea when you heard weathering? Is it like, oh, weather lang yan? Well, typically we'll talk in some other kind of weathering which related in the rocks and minerals. Yes, rocks and minerals are all around us. Do you agree with that? If yes, very good. Okay, they undergo in the process of weathering. So in this, it is the breaking down or dissolving of rocks and mineral. It means nagbe-break down din po or nagda-dissolve ang ating rocks and minerals na kung saan nagkakaroon po ng pagpapatong-patong ng mga layers or ito po yung process ng weathering. Can be formed or can be from the surface of the earth. There are agents we know in the weathering. They are. So, in the agent we mean, ito po yung hindi tao ang usapan. Ito po yung mga phenomena na pangyayari or pwedeng mga bagay na pwedeng makaapekto doon po sa ating rocks and minerals. Mga agents. Una, water. Okay, water and next, ice. Next, acid. Next, salts. Plants, of course. Animals. Changes in temperature. So, yun po yung mga nakakaapekto in the weathering. Let's have first the word erosion. So erosion is one phenomena that contribute in the weathering because once a rock has been broken down and transports the bits of rock and mineral away. So that is the process of erosion. So by the means of erosion, there is a possibility of the process to weather the rocks and mineral. No rock on Earth is hard enough to resist the forces of weathering and erosion. So kahit gaano pa katigas ang bato or layer ng soil na yan, if there are different agents that expose in that place, so it cannot resist that agents and forces to weather and to erode. So, example natin, here is the Grand Canyon. Are you familiar with the Grand Canyon? And let's first define or describe Grand Canyon. So, it is located in US state with 446 kilometers. or 277 miles of the Arizona. So Arizona is located in US. Ayan. Yan yung 446 kilometers and long as much as 29 kilometers or 18 miles wide yung kanyang haba. Then, the depth and yung depth o yung lalim. So, or 1,000 for 1,600 meters or 1 mile deep yung kanyang lalim. Kung gaano siya kataas at gaano ba kababa, ayun, yung kakalawak pababa ng ating Grand Canyon. So, Grand Canyon is one of the best example where there is the layer of weathered rocks na kung saan makikita natin doon yung isang klase ng rock na natawag nating stratified rocks. Meron tayong makitang mga strata, ganon. First, we have the weathering and erosion constantly change the rocky landscape of the Earth. So, for example, in the geological map, so there's a landscape or yung pinakapatag or lupa, may pagbabago doon sa structure nun dahil nga po sa process ng weathering and erosion. Next, we have weathering wears away exposed surfaces over time. So, yung mga exposed po, especially with the water, with the wind, na kung saan yun po yung process na nagko-contribute para mag-proceed yung weathering na yun, affected po yung mga exposed talaga. And they are vulnerable. The length of exposure often contributes to how vulnerable a rock is to weathering. So, yun nga, by the exposed po ng isang ng mga rocks rather, is ganun po din masasabi kung gaano siya ka-vulnerable or affected dun sa mga agents na nandun sa kung nasan yung rocks or layer of the rocks. Next, we have rocks such as lavas that are quickly buried beneath under rocks are less vulnerable to weathering and erosion than rocks that are exposed to agents such as wind and water. So, in simple manner, kung hindi naman po siya exposed dun sa different agents na nabanggit kanina is they cannot be weathered as much as possible like the other rocks and minerals na exposed dun sa mga na pwedeng ma-weathered or yung mga agents na pang-weather or weathering. Next, we have the two processes of weathering. So, para mas maintindihan natin, ano ba yung nangyayari? Paano ba nangyayari with the presence of different agents? So, weathering happens whether you like it or not. Do you agree with that? If yes, very good. So, totoo po, kahit anong pigil mo sa weathering, it will happen. Kagaya na lang ng bigla siyang nawala, di mo na napigilan. Charot! Okay, continue with the lesson. Weathering is often divided into the process. So we have first, mechanical weathering. Second, chemical weathering. Then meron pa tayong isa, biological weathering. Ito po yung mga living or once living organism contribute to weathering. So, pwedeng kasama na dyan yung mga labi ng tao. Ayan. Ng tao, mga nabubulok na bagay or tao, I mean organism like the plants and animals. So can be part of both process yung biological weathering. Pwede siyang maging part sa mechanical, pwedeng maging sa chemical. Okay, mechanical weathering. Also called physical weathering, and disaggregation causes rocks to crumble. Yung magkaroon ng dusty or maghiwa-hiwalay siya. Magkaroon ng crack. Ayan. So, water is either liquid or solid form is often key agent of mechanical weathering. So, water, yung water, di ba, akala mo, di siya basta-basta makakasira ng matigas na bagay, but you can never know if you don't know. So, this is your chance to know that. So we have a process called frost weathering or cryofracturing na kung saan when the rock is exposed in very cold temperature, so isipin mo, 'di ba? Nagko-frostbite nga tayo kapag sobrang lamig, 'di ba? So syempre ganun din po sa bato. So, sa sobrang lamig, ayan, for example, na-expose na sa biglang init, ayan, kasi temperature din, so, pwedeng magkaroon ng crack. So, once the rock cracks, ayan, mayroong mga dust structure, so, it will contribute with the process of weathering. So, temperature changes can also contribute to mechanical weathering in a process called thermal stress. Yung biglang suddenly change of temperature from cold to hot to hot to cold, yung biglaan na lang. Ganon. Okay, for example, yung water, from the first process, konti lang yung amount ng water in between of the rocks, right? If you can see. So, second, nagpo-push na yung water against with the between of the rocks. Ayan, kaya in the third picture process is nag-break down na yung rocks. That way, mag-weathered siya unti-unti ng hanggang sa, yan, maghiwa-hiwalay na talaga silang mga rocks. Next, you have the chemical weathering. Chemical weathering changes in molecular structure of rocks and soil. So, for instance, carbon dioxide from air or soil sometimes combined with water in a process called the carbonation. This carbonation produces a weak acid called carbonic acid which can dissolve rock. Akala mo yun? Merong kayang makatunaw sa bato, carbonic acid, especially effective at dissolving limestone. Okay, when carbonic acid seeps through limestone underground, it can open up huge cracks or hollow vast networks of caves. Are you familiar with the stalactites, stalagmites, like that, na kung saan yun? Ito, yan. So, dissolves large portion of limestone or other rock on the vast surface of the earth to form landscape called karst. Ayan yung mga cars. Meron pa kayo makikita dyan. In these areas, the surface rock is marked with holes, sinkholes, and caves. So doon yung mga stalactites, stalagmites, na kung saan you can see, kung nakapasok na kayo sa cave, yung mga bato doon or yung mga rocks doon ay may pores or may butas-butas. So, it's because of the carbonic acid. Okay? Yung air na nahaluan ng water and yun, soil sometimes, then nagpo-produce ng acid, yun nga, carbonic acid, yun. So, kaya po nagkakaroon ng butas-butas sa mga bato or cars dyan sa kuweba. Okay, another type of chemical weathering works on rocks that contain iron. So, yung iron, when it's exposed doon po sa, ayan, water and air, and it called the process of oxidation. O yung parang nangangalawang, kaya nagkakaroon ng rusty color yung mga rocks. So, kaya medyo mas madali silang mag-crack. So, rust is a compound created by interaction of oxygen and iron in the presence of water, like what I said. So, when rust expands, it weakens rock and helps break it apart. Ayun. So, mas nagiging weak yung quality ng rock because of the presence of oxygen and iron with the exposure of water.
Weathering.
This rock is smaller, but it looks like the same type of rock as this mountain.
Weathering happens over time. It's a process. Weathering can break large rocks into small rocks. Weathering breaks smaller rocks down further into soil, sand, or even tiny particles called sediment. But what causes weathering? Water. ice, wind, plants, heating and cooling. All of these things affect the Earth and play a part in breaking rocks down into smaller pieces. They are the causes or agents of weathering. Water. Some of these agents can cause change physically. That is, just by the force of contacting the rock. Water, in all its forms, is the most powerful agent. The physical force of water and ice can break rocks and wear away their surfaces. When water freezes in cracks in rocks, it expands. It gets bigger. The force of expanding water is so great, it can actually split rock apart. You might have discovered this yourself if you've ever frozen a water bottle to take to school. That bottle is full of water, all the way to the top. It's standing nicely in the freezer. You think, I can put it on my desk tomorrow and let it melt. I'll have cold water all day long. The next morning, though, what's happened? The bottle won't stand up. The frozen water has gotten bigger. It has expanded and pushed out the bottom of the bottle. It's no longer flat. The freezing action of water can expand the cracks in rocks and break them up. The flowing action of water can weather rock too. It slowly wears the surface of rocks away. This stream bottom has been worn smooth. And when water flows over rocks, it not only causes a physical change, it can cause a change inside the rock to the different materials that make up the rock. This is called a chemical change. Let's see what water with a little vinegar, a weak acid from plants, can do to this soft rock called soapstone. After just a few minutes, you can begin to see particles in the water. Let's wait just a little longer. Now look, parts of this soft rock have dissolved. Why did some of the rock wash away here and some of it stay there? Water caused a chemical change. It was able to dissolve some of the material in the rock, while other parts did not dissolve. We saw how water can get into cracks in rocks, freeze, expand, and break rocks down. The same thing can happen with plants. Plants. Plants can grow in cracks in rocks. As the plant grows, the roots of the plant grow too, making the crack bigger and bigger until wind. This landform in Utah may have been smooth at one time. Desert winds carrying sand have weathered this surface. These workmen are getting ready to paint this truck. They're using this machine that blows air and sand to blast away the old paint. It's called a sandblaster. Look what sand and wind can do to a soft surface like wood in just a few minutes. Just like that sandblaster, over time, wind can weather away the surface of landforms, changing the way they look. Temperature. The wind isn't blowing on this rock in the sun, but this rock is still weathering. It's getting warmer now, and some of the materials in the rock are expanding quickly with the heat. Other materials in the same rock are expanding slowly. When the sun goes down, they'll contract or get smaller at different speeds too. This expansion and contraction is all smaller than we can see with our own eyes, but over time, it is enough to slowly break the rock down. So temperature changes can also cause weathering.
But after weathering breaks up rock, what happens to it?
Okay. So, after the video, I think lahat naman yun ay na mababanggit or nabanggit na. So, para mas mapalawig pa yung ating pagkakaintindi sa ating lesson. Why is the Earth's interior hot? Bakit nga ba mainit yung pinaka-core ng Earth? So, it takes rather a long time for heat to move out of the Earth. Okay, so matagal. It happens or this occurs through both convective transport of heat within the Earth's liquid outer core and solid mantle, and slower convective transport of heat through non-convecting boundary layers such as Earth's plates at the surface. So the relationship of convection and the conduction. Ayan. So as a result, much of the Earth's or much of the planet's primordial heat from when the Earth first accreted and developed its core has been retained. So, ganun pa rin siya kainit kagaya nung dati nung na-develop siya. So, ano muna tayo? Based on science, okay? Science tayo, okay? So, the amount of heat that can arise through simple accretionary processes to bringing small bodies together to form the proto-Earth is large on the order of 10,000 kelvins, about 18,000 degrees in Fahrenheit. So, ganun kainit yung ating proto-Earth at that time. So, to more understanding, ayan. So, the crucial issue is how much of that energy was deposited into the growling earth and how much was radiated into the space. So indeed, the currently accepted idea for how moon was formed involves the impact of accretion of a Mars-sized object with or by the proto-Earth. So, paano daw ba nabuo yun? And when two objects in this size collides, a large amount of heat are generated, of which quite a lot of retained. This single episode could have largely melted the outermost several thousands kilometers of the planet wherein ganito yung nangyari. Ayan. So, for example, yung Theia, then it will bang, yan, bubunggo dun sa Earth, tapos nagkaroon ng impact, kaya yun, yung debris ng impact na yun, iikot, mag-form ng yung debris sa Earth, na kung saan unti-unting naging, yung debris na yun naging moon. Ayan. Okay. Next, three main sources of heat inside the Earth. So, ano ba yung dahilan bakit mainit yung pinaka core natin? Yan. Sources. Ano ba yung, saan ba siya kumukuha? Una, heat from the planet form accreted which is not yet been lost. So, yung init na dati na meron yung core is ganun pa rin siya. Walang pagbabago. Second, frictional heating caused by denser core material sinking to the center of the planet. Ako saan by the means of friction, di ba? When you simply rub your hand with your other hand, no? So, friction yun, sample lang, no? Di ba? Umiinit yung palad natin. So, paano pa kaya dyan na yung ating core is rotating so that it will have the friction. So, mainit talaga. Yan, by the means of friction. Third, heat from the decay of radioactive elements like what? Like uranium. So, uranium is like decaying material or radioactive decay. Yan. Na yung radioactive decay is producing the heat. Na kung saan one of the reason why the Earth's interior is still hot. Okay, let's try to answer. So, what kind of weathering is this? I'll give you 5 seconds. 5. It is, yes, biological weathering. Kasi because of the plant roots. Next. So, what kind of weathering is this? Are you familiar with the color? I'll give you time. Okay, very good. The answer is chemical weathering and the agent is oxygen. Next. What do you think happened in there? So what weathering is that? Mechanical weathering and the agent is wind. Okay. So to summarize, weathering is the breaking down or dissolving of rocks and minerals. No rock on Earth is hard enough to resist the forces of weathering and erosion because of different agents. Yeah, divided in two processes, we have the mechanical and chemical weathering. Biological weathering is the living or once living organism contribute to the weathering and can be part of the both processes. Ayan. Mechanical weathering is also called physical weathering and disintegration causes rocks to crumble. So, nag-ano siya, hiwa-hiwalay, disintegrate. Yan. Chemical weathering changes the molecular structure of soil and rocks na kung saan dito mababanggit rather yung carbonic acid and the oxidation wherein na nagkaroon ng pagtunaw or dissolving dun sa rock because of the carbonic acid, right? If you still remember, and the oxidation because of the exposure of iron in air and in the rock with water. Naging rusty color siya. So that's think it's kind of fragile. Again, the rock is fragile. Madali siya mag-crack. So the Earth's interior is hot through the convective transport heat within the Earth's liquid outer core or the solid metal slowing convective transport of heat through non-convecting boundary layers such as Earth's plates and the surface na kung saan because of that layer we cannot feel the heat inside the Earth. Yon. So the three main sources of heat inside the Earth, naalala ba? First, heat from the planet formed, accreted. So, ibig sabihin nun, dati pa siyang ganon. Since before, hindi pa siya lolos or nawawala. Second, the frictional heating. So, I've already said that because of the rotation of the core na kung saan umiikot siya, gumagalaw siya because of the friction. So, yun, mainit yung ating center of the planet, yung core. So, heat from decay of radioactive elements like the uranium or the radioactive decay radioactive. Yes, uranium. So don't forget to like, share, comment this in this video, and don't forget to subscribe, and click the notification bell button so that we can or you can watch more videos from your teacher, Miss Jenaline B. Besa. Thank you so much for watching. Adios. God bless us all.